I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
The wrestling.
Hey everybody, it's the Wrestling Life. It's episode 372. It is the first week of May. Hooray, hooray, the 1st of May. Outdoor humping starts today. Of 2024. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
Liam, how's your outdoor humping going?
Haven't heard any complaints yet.
All right. Well, so much to talk about this week.
And as always, so many things we cannot talk about, like humping indoor or out on the first and only wrestling podcast.
WWE has Backlash France coming up this weekend. Another Saturday afternoon pay-per-view in the grand tradition of many Saturday afternoon pay-per-views in this era.
Mm-hmm.
And AEW is building to Double or Nothing. And you were right about Dwayne. And John Laurinaitis and Vince McMahon apparently have joined forces now in their have rejoined forces in their attempts to try to force Chanel Grant to arbitration and ultimately a settlement.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of things to discuss. Backlash France coming up this weekend. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Damian Priest versus Jey Uso for the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. It seems that they've pretty much dropped the Universal Championship title and are just calling that the Cody belt the undisputed WWE Championship, which I'm fine with.
Sure. If you're going to pretend it's the same belt as the Bruno belt, the Universal word doesn't really make sense in there.
Right. And the lineages were combined 2 years ago or whatever, so
Right.
it's fine. Damian Priest versus Jey Uso, interesting first title program there. Bailey defending the WWE Women's Championship against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Kabuki Warriors defending the women's tag titles against Bianca and Jade. And Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus Solo Sikoa and Tamatonga. What do you think about the build to this show? Anything stand out? Anything you're looking forward to on Saturday?
I mean, I generally, with the exception of the Saudi shows, enjoy these out of country shows, not just because they happen in the afternoon and I can watch them and then actually still do something with my life if I so choose. But also because when they get in front of crowds that don't get wrestling a lot, they are generally really excited about it and they feel like that last year's show in Puerto Rico with the Bad Bunny match was probably the best WWE show of the entire year. So I'm more excited just because I imagine like the vibes will be quite good on that show. I imagine like the crowd's going to be hot. They're going to be excited just to be there and they're going to react to everything like it's a big deal. And so I think the show, they would have to really try, I feel like, to not have at least a passable show, one would hope.
Yeah, that's more than fair. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. This match would have been highly anticipated 6 to 8 years ago. We're getting it in 2024.
They didn't really meet in the middle on when one of them stopped being a good worker and one of them became a good worker.
Sure, that's
or
fair.
Great worker, I should say. They were both. I think Cody is a great worker now. I think AJ was a great worker.
All right, more than fair.
Cody was, his New Japan stint was not one well remembered if you were actually watching at the time.
Correct.
But whereas AJ after that first year in WWE kind of just, and I don't blame him for it, but has not been at the same level of the AJ Styles old. And now he also decided in his late 40s, he decided now's the time to throw on an extra like 20 pounds of muscle. Now's the time to get really vascular.
Yeah, he's gonna be a body guy now.
Yeah.
47 years old. Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think the crowd will react to it. It would have made more sense if AJ had won at WrestleMania that he was getting this shot. But
Yeah,
you know, they did. I mean, they did their little qualifying matches, like, and they got it to a point where it's not like egregious that he's there. But yeah, I think this will be fine. I feel like you would have been better served, as we talked about 4 months before the show, of getting somebody really, really ready to like a big challenger for Cody instead of the also Rans. But that's what you're gonna do until you decide to turn Randy Orton heel again, or whoever's gonna be his summer program until Dwayne comes back.
right. Um, we thought Jim Uso would have been a prime candidate for that, and then Jim got hurt. First, he lost a really bad 8-minute WrestleMania match to his twin brother, and then he got hurt. And now Jay is wrestling for the other world title. So whatever. The draft this week, by the way, absolutely just what a mess.
What a waste of everyone's time. Made me look at Bubba Ray Dudley's stupid face multiple
Every night.
times.
Yeah. They killed the draft. They killed the town with the draft this week, is what they did. Like good luck trying to pop a rating with the draft ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where one, it's just clear that nobody in charge of creative there has ever watched real sports.
Correct.
And two, it's just they didn't do anything exciting. Most of the draft was people that were already on that show getting drafted back to their same show.
Correct.
And I assume it's because, well, we know they added up how many people they were going to be moving ultimately, and they're like, well, if we just announce these, that's a really boring draft, so we'll try to spice it up by having various retired wrestlers and former executives come out and say the names of people that are already on this show.
Yeah. And that's what they did. It was nice to see Tori Wilson on TV. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Good for her. Yeah. Let's wrap up Backlash here real quick, and then we can talk a little bit more about the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey versus Naomi versus Tiffany. I think Naomi's there to eat a pin. She's been doing a lot since she returned. And
well, I hope she learned her lesson.
and you know, when they were trying to woo Okada and they put Nakamura on TV every twice a show, every show for like 2 months, he still lost like 60% of his matches.
Yeah.
But they were like, look, we're pushing this guy. Anyway, yeah, that should be anyway, since they didn't get Okada, Nakamura has just lost every match again. And since WWE didn't get Mercedes, Naomi's just gonna lose every match. So there's that. She walked out.
She's kind of the odd woman out too, because Jade and Bianca are in a team, and
yeah,
Bailey's the babyface world champion, so maybe she could turn heel.
It's an idea. Sounds bad, but yeah, sounds like an idea.
Like one of the like everyone's like the reputation of like the nicest woman in wrestling. Be like, oh yeah, let's make her a bad guy. That'll be riveting. But again, once you've beat her like a drum, you either keep beating her like a drum,
right,
or you turn her, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, why not? Kabuki Warriors versus Bianca and Jade. Bianca and Jade, strangely, they would end up as a tag team, but probably for the best in the short term. And then in the long term, maybe one could turn on the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Jade because she doesn't have to work singles matches, which
Yeah.
she has a mixed resume as a singles wrestler. I
Yep.
think it's fair to say. And on the Bianca side, and this is something that you've pointed out plenty of times on the show before, she is right now in the point that like Cena and Randy Orton and guys like that get to, where she's clearly still she's going to go back to the main event singles title at some point, but they needed to like filter in an excursion year here where she goes and she works tag team program and they
Yeah.
keep her out of the title picture for a while just because she beat everybody in it.
Yes.
So you need to give her like a year off where she is in a tag team for a while, probably wins the belts, could win them here, and then eventually she loses them and she and her tag partner feud until you're ready to push her as a single star again.
Yeah. And I think that's totally fine. Randy Orton and Kevin Owens being friends is never not jarring. And here they're teaming up against the Bloodlines, Solo Sikoa and Tamatonga. I don't care for the dynamic where Paul Heyman is like, I think it makes for kind of interesting TV where Paul Heyman is like can't control Solo Sikoa.
Mhm.
Um, and Solo is kind of running the bloodline now, and he's brought in Tamatonga, who's this dangerous outsider, and Paul's like just trying to keep everything together. I don't think Paul should be involved in this.
Yeah, I don't know that he's helping. Like I don't think having him on TV all the time is good for him or good for this storyline.
Yeah, like
Like
I can both say he's good and he's kind of maybe the most compelling thing about this storyline, but also I don't think it's helping anyone having Paul on TV every week.
well, it's like and doing this, you think then okay, that has to leave to like Solo giving Paul the spike and then Roman coming back to defend Paul's honor,
Yeah.
unless you're just gonna write Paul out forever and it'll turn
Mm,
out that Solo's been doing all of this secretly at the behest of Roman.
right.
But then again,
Doesn't
what's the payoff there? Paul Heyman gets another guy to fight Roman and Solo.
no, I think no, I think Roman comes back as babyface then, and Paul goes babyface with Roman.
You could do that.
It's not what I would do, but I
No.
think it's what they're gonna do.
And as Triple H reminded us, Brock Lesnar still around. Still
Ugh.
could be back any day.
Yeah, sure.
They're still in the Brock Lesnar business.
Yeah, okay. uh Bloodline versus Orton. Okay, so they will probably add another match to the show on SmackDown, maybe something with Carlito against someone in the LWO or God only knows.
Yeah, like a Ray match would be fun.
Yeah, the Becky's the Raw Women's Champion, the Women's World Champion. She doesn't have an opponent right now. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you could do here. Okay, so the draft, yeah, a whole lot of nothing. The only interesting things were the NXT call-ups. So Carmelo Hayes, he got called up to SmackDown and immediately had a bizarre match with Cody Rhodes rather. It's absolutely bizarre. As usual, during a Carmelo Hayes match, I found myself asking, what the hell is he doing?
Well, I say that about to him, and I say that about whoever's bright idea it was, tried to concoct a spot where both he and Cody go for a springboard, and then in midair, Cody catches him in a cutter. I think that's what they were trying to do,
I agree, yes.
but like whoever concocted that, uh,
Pete Williams?
definitely it was Pete Williams. I was like, that is an X Division spot. That is an amazing red Christopher Daniels spot. That is
Sure.
not a Cody Rhodes Carmelo Hayes spot.
Yeah. Kiana James got called up. Baron Corbin got recalled back up. Great. Baron Corbin on SmackDown. Awesome.
Thank goodness.
Ilya Dragunov to Raw, Lyra Valkyria to Raw, Blair Davenport to SmackDown, Dijak to Raw. All right, so that was WWE, and that's Backlash coming up this weekend. That was the WWE draft. I think maybe the only surprise non-call up would be Roxanne Perez, who got a showcase match on Raw a couple of weeks ago. Anything else stand out to you from the draft?
Yeah, not not really. It was a really boring 2 nights. Stretching out over 2 nights, I feel like even made it even more threadbare than it already was. So yeah, they just didn't do anything exciting. There's a couple of years where the draft was kind of fun, and they would even do they would do matches between people in each brands, and the winning people would get the draft pick or whatever.
Yes.
And that's at least something, you know?
Yes.
It was like, okay, it's an excuse to just pair up a bunch of random people to have fun little TV matches, and there's something on the line, theoretically. But they don't do that anymore. They just have various people come out and do their little cameos and then stand at a lectern awkwardly and say the names of people that are already on this show that are staying on this show.
There were 32 people or teams or groups or acts or however you want to put it, 32 that were drafted to the same brand that they were already on in this draft. 32 acts.
Why bother?
I don't know. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so they had 33 picks there on night 2. And then on night 1, there were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 23. So 56. 33 out of the 56 picks were just people staying on the same brand. What? It's absolutely insane.
That's more than half.
Unreal. Well, another riveting WWE draft is in the books. NXT this week. Natalia and Lola Vice, one of HBK's big booty Latinas that he is stockpiling. He's building an army of big booty Latinas in Orlando. They had a hell of a match. It's an NXT Underground match. Weird stipulation, bad stipulation. Very green opponent. Didn't matter. Natty had a blood sport match with Lola Vice, and it was great.
Yeah. This is not something that would have been on my radar, but I saw other people talking about how good it was, and yeah, it was awesome. It's the best Natalia match I can remember in the last, I don't know, what did she have that tables match? 2010?
No earthly idea.
No, I mean she had a good match with Becky on a SummerSlam. That's maybe the last one I remember. I think it was Becky or Sasha. She had a match with somebody on a SummerSlam in Toronto. That was good. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a long time since you've seen anything for her to sink her teeth into, and she did a great job. And Lola is obviously very green, but did a good job as well. So yeah, it was fun. And I guess I always worry that we'll take the wrong lessons from this. And we'll start doing Raw or NXT Underground every week.
Sure.
And not just that it was a unique setting and this very experienced wrestler and this young wrestler with a lot of potential managed to make something compelling out of it, as opposed to, oh, it was great because of this dumb stipulation we concocted.
Right. Or they'll say, you know what? That Lola Vice really knows how to work.
Yes. There is always that. You saw that happen with pretty much every opponent that Becky Lynch wrestled in NXT last year.
It's true.
Even though a lot of them are, a lot of them have talent, a lot of them have potential.
A lot of them are good.
A lot
Yes.
of them never had a match anywhere near as good that they had with Becky Lynch, though.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's our WWE and NXT roundup. Do we want to talk about John Laurinaitis trying to join with Vince's legal team to get Janelle Grant's legal team to enter into arbitration?
What a
This
worm. What a little worm of a man.
he in his lawyer statement, they would like to they reiterated that Mr. Laurinaitis is a victim as well in this case,
Mm-hmm.
but that he he wants arbitration also.
Right. And that all of her claims, they corroborate all of Vince's lawyer's claims,
Right.
despite previously saying that they they found that, like the plaintiff, Laurinaitis was also a victim, but now he corroborates all of the claims, saying that she was a liar and just a spurned lover, or whatever the current Vince legal defense is. So, but yeah, I just saw that, and it was just, I think someone even said, it's like, wow, they really, the television character was a shoot with Johnny, huh? Just just a
Seems
little
that way.
just a little barnacle on the side of the good ship McMahon.
Yep. Very strange. Very strange. I have nothing to add. Nothing of value to add to this
Here's a
conversation.
transition. You know,
Yeah.
you mentioned last week that lovely CNBC article, the little image rehab that Vince had out there about adopting puppies.
Correct.
A
Yes.
fun little nugget in there was that Vince has still been in contact with John Cena and our good buddy Dwayne
Ooh.
frequently since his ousting.
Hmm.
And speaking of Dwayne,
Yeah, you can take the lead on this. This is your victory lap.
this is yeah. So there was an article in the Wrap uh that was just very it's like the floodgates have opened,
Yes.
and everyone, it's like every weird thing that anyone has ever felt or thought about working with Dwayne Johnson as an actor suddenly like came flooding out in this article from the Wrap this week. He's late to set every day, sometimes being so late or just refusing to come to set that it delays filming multiple days and causes budgets to balloon on all these big million, hundreds of $1 million films that he's in. Sometimes he delays filming because he's filming content for his tequila brand or for the XFL. Allegedly, this is all alleged, obviously. Let's see. He apparently has an issue. A lot of people do. Don't want to shame the man. Seems to have a real issue with using public restrooms of any kind,
Yeah.
and he's come up with an alternative solution to that,
Yeah.
which is to piss into water bottles, and then according
Voss water bottles.
Voss, specifically Voss,
Yes.
his fucking water bottle brand, and then either people on his staff or perhaps PAs working on the set, production assistants working on the set, are then asked or tasked with disposing of the piss-filled Voss water bottles.
Yeah.
He had a blow up on set with Ryan Reynolds on the set of their Netflix film, which Netflix claimed was incredibly popular, despite the fact that no one has ever seen it. And I'm trying to think of what. And this is all off the top of the dome, by the way.
Yes.
I absorbed this immediately and was just delighted by it all. Let's see, there was a lot of stuff about him just being late, being unprofessional. They brought up that the original Vin Diesel beef that led to him exiting the Fast franchise for several years was apparently in part due to Dwayne's unprofessional acts on set. Yeah, so it's just I am curious what it is, why this is coming out now.
Yes.
In the sense of like, is it just the blood is in the water because he had a few failed franchises, and there's a note in there about how his delays have ballooned the budget of this Amazon Studios Christmas movie he's working on. And I wonder if it's partially that because they noted that that studio has not really done any movies that are like that size budget, and it's like really early days for this studio if it's going to get off the ground and become like a real player.
Yeah,
And
it
so I wonder
seemed
if it's like people, if it's trying to get people trying to get it out there, being like, "Hey, stop screwing around on our dime, Dwayne." Like,
it was very much like a two or three pronged attack in that it was mostly attacking Dwayne, but there were some side swiping of Amazon Studios in there, like
mm-hmm.
saying that Amazon has junior executives basically or inexperienced executives that that some people would classify as junior executives running their multi hundreds of millions of dollars film division or whatever. And that seemed to be one of the things that the reporting here was attacking, and went on to say, well, they have allowed Dwayne to blow the budget of this Christmas movie, which is eerily similar both in plot and title to the Christmas movie he did with Ryan Reynolds for Netflix. He's doing like one is called Red One and one is called Red Notice.
Yes.
They're both Christmas movies, and one was for Netflix, and this new one is for Amazon.
Wait,
Anyway,
is Red Notice? I thought Red Notice was a spy movie. Is that a Christmas movie too?
I I, I thought they were both Christmas movies.
Okay,
Uh,
it might
uh,
be, but I think it's also a spy movie.
okay, that's fine. Well, it was going to be released at the Christmas season.
That sounds
Uh,
right.
okay, Red One is a high-powered Christmas crowd pleaser for Amazon MGM.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look up Red Notice. Red Notice was his spy movie with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also a Christmas movie, or am I making that up? It doesn't appear that the one with the egg was a Christmas movie.
Okay. Yeah, it had the egg.
it
Vince built a Survivor series around it.
was it
No
was just
wonder.
it was released around November or in the early part of November, which made me
Right,
think for some reason that it was a Christmas movie, but it was not.
right. Uh,
Okay. Anyway,
but
yeah.
yes. Yeah, other notes in there. There's a lot of swipes taken at Dwayne's team,
Yes.
including his ex brother-in-law and current head producer of $7 Productions, Hiram Garcia. Just
Yes.
talking about how he's an idiot. He can't run a production, anything where he's actually been in charge. He's only ever really been a producer on Dwayne projects
Right.
and really doesn't seem to be able, according to this article, doesn't seem to be able to do the job that a producer is supposed to do. Relies a lot on his assistants and the other production people to handle most of that. And when struggling to name a project that didn't involve Dwayne Johnson that he was in, he brought up the DC movie Shazam, which Dwayne was not technically in, but there is like a hologram that's alluding to the Black Adam character that is in the likeness of Dwayne. So,
Right.
um, yes, and then there was a note that they basically tried to do a hostile takeover. As I think we all knew this, but they were trying to position Dwayne's character of Black Adam, famous DC Comics character Black Adam, that not just nerds like me know, everybody knows him, uh, as the new like pillar of that universe. Like they wanted him to be their Captain America type character, and they were also going to position Danny Garcia's other client, Henry Cavill as Superman, on the other side of that. But the problem was that that movie didn't make any money, and in fact lost a lot of money. And so part of that plan was to establish Dwayne and Henry Cavill as like the acting cornerstones of the universe, and then also install Hiram Garcia as the head of DC Films at Warner Brothers.
Yes.
And then Black Adam didn't, and it probably would have worked, except for the fact that Black Adam didn't make any money. And so it all came crashing down. And as a result, Henry Cavill did not come back as Superman beyond a cameo in the Black Adam film, and fired Danny Garcia as his agent, which I did not know. So that's a fun little bit of my worlds colliding. A little bit of DC movie goss mixed in there. But yeah, just a really funny amusing look at both Dwayne and everyone in Dwayne's orbit, and how it seems like Hollywood as a like the royal Hollywood
Yeah.
has currently had enough of him. And
Well,
and because he is not a bona fide box office sensation currently, he is more, it's easier to take shots at him now than it was in 2018 when maybe this behavior was already going on.
yeah. Look, anybody who spends as much time trying to cultivate an image as Dwayne does,
Mm-hmm.
you'll wonder what's going on. It's like he's the man of the people. He works hard for the people. He just drives the truck and he
Mm-hmm.
goes fishing and he works hard and he works out all the time and he has his cheat meals and he wants everybody to look good and smell good with Papa Tui
Mm-hmm.
and drink their Zoe energy and whatever and what have you. But look, look. So, he's chronically late all the time. And they're like, even when you factor in that he's spending a lot of his day working out so that he can
Mm-hmm.
look like an action star, he still is just chronically late, and he wants to be in control, and all of these things. It was also noted in that article that he was like 4 hours late to WrestleMania, and that
Yes.
which somebody from WWE had to refute. They're like, "No, he wasn't late for WrestleMania. We love him, and he's a kind of benevolent leader."
And I've seen him dunk a basketball.
Right.
Yeah, it was Chris Legentile, Nick Khan's right hand man. Got the name check from WWE,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
but yes, it was. There were that is fair. The article does have quotes from Chris Legentile, also has quotes from people in $7 being like, "Nuh-uh." That's how the article was structured. It would be like two paragraphs of here's all this weird stuff that Dwayne does, and
Yes.
then and then one paragraph of we reached out to comment, and this a representative for $7 production said, no, no, that's not what happened. It was a lot of that.
They didn't really have an answer for the lateness, though.
No. Well, there was a nugget there about how apparently, because common thing, I don't know, maybe everybody knows this, but there's what's called a call sheet where
Yes.
there's a sheet where all of the actors are supposed to be on set to start filming their scenes for that day at X amount of time, and not everybody has the same call time, so it could be layered throughout the day. Not everybody's going to be on set at the same time.
Right.
But apparently, after the 2018 film Rampage, which I believe was the one with the giant gorilla,
Yes.
uh, because another actor in that movie was keeping track of Dwayne's call time and noting how late he was each day. Going forward, Dwayne no longer allows a call time to be printed in any public, or doesn't allow the other actors or crew to see when his call time is, which I think is wonderful.
Yes.
Can't be late if you don't know when I'm supposed to be there.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So a lot of wonderful inside baseball stuff going on there.
It's just, look, we are, like you said, none of this should be shocking if you've paid attention,
Right.
as I have.
Right.
As anyone with a pair of eyes can see, he's very careful and has cultivated. And to cultivate that type of image, that very brand safe Hollywood nice guy image, you have to exert an incredible amount of control over everything you do and say and everything you do on a day-to-day basis. And like I said, and as long as you're cashing checks for everybody involved is making a lot of money off of that, it's a lot easier to forgive that kind of behavior when everybody gets richer when the movie comes out, right? Like,
Yes. And it was noted in that piece as well that part of his chronic tardiness is or a benefit of his chronic tardiness is that all of the union crews on these sets uh get enough hours to like qualify for health insurance. So it was, which someone from his team had to point out, by the
Of course.
way. Like, actually, the crew likes waiting around all day for him because it means they can go to the dentist.
Sure.
I don't know.
That's wonderful. I just saw that and I was like, this is the first time though. Like, because you'll see articles about like here, look at all these weird things that actors do on set sometimes. Like those
Right.
happen fairly frequently in these
Yes.
sort of Hollywood trades.
Army Hammer is a cannibal.
Right.
Army Hammer likes to eat human flesh.
Right. That's something we all learned together.
Yes.
Uh, but it's just this is the first big one about Dwayne, and it confirms a lot of things that I think were speculated upon, and it just gives you a little more insight into like, okay, that's the guy I know. That's there he is. Like
Sure.
that's wonderful. And then yes, you just get a little bit of color in there with the the peeing in bottles story. That's just a
Sure.
little that's just the icing on the cake.
Sure. I lost my train of thought, but that's fine. I had another Dwayne point here, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Speaking of WWE stars and their film careers, Ronda Rousey has written a script for a movie about her life based on her memoirs that apparently her people say was so good that they ripped the cover page off of it so that Netflix wouldn't know who wrote it. And Netflix was like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing. We need to do this movie." And they're like, "Surprise, bitch! Ronda Rousey wrote this. Ronda Rousey's life story is going to be a Netflix movie." Great.
I mean, she has an interesting story, I guess.
Hey man, you go from an Olympic athlete to like slinging drinks as a part-time bartender or whatever she was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you end up the biggest fight star in the world. I mean, sure, I'm sure there's stuff there.
For sure.
I'm not interested in her life or career.
No,
I'll
like
just put it that way.
I also because I feel like from the time that you would care about her, which is like when she became an MMA star,
Yes.
we've seen her entire life. It feels like like
Yes.
she because like, that's another byproduct of like being a star in the social media age is that we already kind of know all the broad strokes of like her personal life and what happened after she lost the fight to Holly Holm and all that. Like it's all pretty publicized. So
Yes.
I don't know. And I like I said, good for her, but also, yeah, not a movie I will be plopping down on the couch to watch.
Also, as you brought up our friend Nick Khan earlier, Nick, a lot of people don't understand business, are writing about business now as it relates to WWE.
Love that.
Like, look, I did a semester of journalism school and somehow ended up with a job writing for a website. So I can only imagine what I did 2 semesters actually. Anyway, but anyway, you get the point. Like clearly, it's not always the best and brightest who are writing about these things,
Sure.
as evidenced by yours truly. But there are a lot of people writing about like the business of TKO and how Vince McMahon sold all his stock. And it's like, well, actually, he hasn't sold all his stock yet.
No,
He's
he listed it for sale, but he did not
right.
sell.
And then people are like, "Oh, Nick Khan's leaving in 2025, and he's also sold all his stock." It's actually no, he's listed all his stock for sale. He has not sold any stock yet, and Nick Khan is actually signed to WWE through 2026. So we have at least 2 more years of incredibly high ticket prices
Mhm.
and cramming 3,000 ringside seats into the building and all of the things that I associate with Uncle Nick. and his tenure as WWE CEO.
As many filmed house shows that we'll call pay-per-views in front of foreign crowds as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that Backlash card, weak. Weak.
Yeah, but again, I mean, if you look at those, they try. It feels like maybe they try a little harder with the Saudi shows now, but those early ones were like, other than the big names, like the legends coming back for the payday, it was pretty. They were house shows, like they just happened to be in a stadium.
That's fair. That's fair. AEW, weird time of year where they're time shifted and preempted all the time because of hockey and basketball playoffs on the various Turner networks.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no Collision this week. And for the third consecutive week, I think, Rampage aired immediately following Dynamite this week. It hasn't always followed Dynamite. Sometimes it's been live after Collision. Sometimes it's been live after Dynamite. But Rampage not on Friday night for like the third week in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and no Collision this weekend. And next week we're back to Dynamite on Wednesday, and then another 3-hour block on Saturday night of Collision and Rampage. They are slowly building towards their pay-per-view, which is coming up at the end of this month. Thoughts on kind of where AEW is in their schedule, and then we can break down this pay-per-view card so far.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I think we talked about this maybe a few weeks ago when Rampage and Dynamite were on the same night. This feels like a test run either by them or by the network. I mean, obviously the network's the ones deciding ultimately where it goes, but of I would assume if AEW stays on these networks, moving Rampage off of Fridays by itself and either putting it after Collision on Saturday nights or putting it after Dynamite every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which look, more people would watch, or at least if they put it after Dynamite. So yeah, it seems like this is a way to bolster. If they put it after Dynamite, it's a way to bolster Rampage. If they put it after Collision, maybe it's a way to bolster that both. I don't know.
Yeah.
Both Collision and Rampage.
Isn't the solution here just to make everything, I don't know, make the shows better?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, we all
not have the outrunners wrestle on every Collision.
I was gonna say that is the self-fulfilling prophecy of we're debuting a second show or a third show. It's gonna be an A show, and we're gonna treat it, and we're gonna put stars on it. But then, no matter how many stars you put on it, eventually it settles into what it's gonna do on whatever night of the week it's on. And then you go, well, if it's only going to do that number, well, then we got to move all the big stuff back to Wednesdays because that's where everybody watches. And then it becomes a B to C to D show.
Right.
Yeah. So it would require putting names, and look, with John Moxley's in and out of the territory right now. Danielson's off TV, Kenny's on and off TV, maybe he's back now, MJF's off TV. They don't got a lot of star power to go around as it is right now, as far as like top guys that have proven to move viewership in any notable ways. So maybe there isn't enough star power to go around anyway. But yes, right now the solution seems to be let's just try to shove it with one of the, shove this weird hour that's doing like 280,000 viewers every week. Not that low, but in that ballpark. Let's shove it behind one of the other shows and see if that holds viewership. And for TNT or TBS, it's, hey, will this hold viewership better than whatever we normally air? An airing of The Accountant starring Ben Affleck, or reruns of Modern Family or whatever come on TBS.
Right. So they've set up some matches for Double or Nothing. We know that Swerve Strickland is going to be defending his championship against Christian Cage, and
Mhm.
Swerve has been champion for about 2 weeks now, and I can't say that I care for his portrayal as world champion so far. He has had or he has had two, I believe, 50-50 matches with not push talent. And then Christian Cage and the former Luchasaurus beat him up on Dynamite this week and left him laying, and then physically stood on him while Christian monologued. And I just think it makes him look super weak. I don't know. He got over because he's a super cool badass dude who kicks ass, and it's his house. And look, I know baby faces have to sell, and you have to build sympathy on the you want sympathy on the baby faces. I don't care for how Swerve has been portrayed as champion 2 weeks in here. But hey,
Yeah.
he's gonna beat Christian Cage.
I don't disagree. There's a middle ground between what they have done and John Cena pinning the entire Nexus by himself, you know?
Sure.
Like there is, you can go too far with the top guy, your world champion, not selling and not selling for the heels. But it's, I would rather, again, I'm a big proponent of, I would rather have too many babyface wins or than too much heel heat on my show.
Yes.
So at the very least, like I said, if Christian hit him, Christian should like sneak in behind at the last second and hit the kill switch, and then he runs up the stage and Swerve is, holding his head in the ring, grimacing. Like that's about as much at this point, I feel like, as you should be letting somebody do to Swerve. I don't think he should be getting laid out and beat down. And again, where one of his guys is on this show. Brian Cage wrestled on that show, but
Yes.
didn't come out to help him either. So there's a lot of that going around in all the wrestling currently, of people not coming out to help other people. But we'll get to that.
Sure. Uh, Tony Storm's gonna wrestle Serena Deeb at Double or Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Serena Deeb, we know she's a professor,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she has a flag,
Correct.
and used to date Marty Scurll, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's sober.
True.
She had some of the biggest implants you'll ever see, and then they were taken out.
Yoga instructor.
Yep. A lot of Serena Deeb lore.
Yeah. I wish it added up to like a more compelling television character, but
Yeah.
it'll theoretically, I think Tony is figuring out more and more how to be this character and also cut real promos and have actual good matches.
Yes.
It was a little bit of a struggle, as we talked about when she first got into the character, of marrying those two things. I think she's figured it out now and is pretty compelling and entertaining while still feeling a bit more like a championship act. So that's fine. Double or Nothing theoretically should be like, I guess All In is their biggest show ever now, but felt like, because Double or Nothing was the first actual like AEW pay-per-view show, it feels like this should be like your it's reverse times of year reverse, but like this should be their SummerSlam. Like this should be a really
Sure.
big match, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they just don't have anybody else ready that she hasn't already beaten. Obviously, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, you would think, would need to be on their way back at some point. But they're not. They're not back yet. So
It's been a long, long time.
sure has. So in the meantime, this is someone Tony hasn't beaten on television a whole bunch. So, and they turned Deanna heel and paired her off with Thunder Rosa. So those two are both busy and have both already lost to Tony.
Yep.
So hey, this is at least it's a fresh opponent, I guess.
Yep. Roderick Strong versus Will Ospreay. Okay. We talked about this last week. Feels like a little bit of a step down for Will.
Mm-hmm.
And Willow versus Mercedes is still happening.
That's right. Willow had a match for the Sickos. on Rampage.
A match for the perverts.
That's right. And really isn't all wrestling for perverts when you think about it. But no, this was, yeah, they did barbed wire and tables and chairs and thumbtacks and all the crazy stuff. So yeah, it was Mercedes has to go heel eventually here, right? Like,
Um, I think the decision may be made for them, particularly if her segments continue to go the way they've been going. I
yeah,
feel like the people are going to choose Willow over her, and she'll be a heel. It's fine. She's a
right.
better heel than she is babyface.
Right. Like they can insulate her because I also feel like the secret plan is in the works and Chris and Stokely are gonna turn here someday
Oh,
soon.
you would think, right? I mean, some
So you could they can cost Willow the title behind and Mercedes is down when the interference happens or whatever. So like you can insulate her from that from when she wins the title from Willow, assuming that happens. But soon after, and again, anytime she's paired against anyone that is a quote unquote original in this company, I think the the crowd will be split at the very least.
I don't think they've given people a whole lot of reasons to treat her like a babyface.
True. I think that's fair.
Since her debut night. Her debut night, she was in her hometown and she cut good babyface promo and did angles where she saved baby faces and stuff, and it was all good. And then now she's doing these overly scripted segments, and she's in there with Willow Nightingale and up against Willow Nightingale, and Willow is one of the most naturally likable people in wrestling, and Mercedes is a natural heel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you'll get. I mean, it's fine. I'm fine with however it plays out. I'm just happy that Mercedes is back on television.
For sure.
We'll see how it goes. Kenny Omega returned this week to TV and talked a lot about colostomy bags,
Sure did.
and also that he is not really anywhere close to returning. I guess there's a conspiracy theory out there that he is, in fact, close to returning, but I don't think Kenny is one who works the dirt sheets. And I legitimately think that he is still a long ways away from returning to wrestling after fighting his diverticulitis. So then they did an angle on Dynamite where the Jungle Boy and Okada and the Young Bucks kicked him right in the diverticulitis
Mm-hmm.
and took him out. And the Elite are running the show now that they've eliminated Tony Khan and Kenny Omega. This was the follow up on the Young Bucks pile drive Tony Khan angle from last week,
Mm-hmm.
and Tony Khan got on the NFL draft and on the NFL Network talking about how WWE is the Harvey Weinstein company and et cetera, off this angle. And I don't know, a lot of people have a lot of terrible thoughts about the discourse surrounding the Tony Khan thing is just terrible to me. But what did you think of the Kenny Omega angle this week and the Young Bucks stuff?
Angle itself, very good, I thought. Kenny came off super likable. Again, he was in his hometown. Um, gave you a reason to cheer for him when he does come back, whenever that is. Um, set up several matches, you would think, for him when he comes back. But yeah, the overall, so they had to justify immediately why the Young Bucks were not fired. And they went with the Paul White 2012 ironclad contract justification. You see, in my contract, it says you can't fire me if I beat the shit out of you. And apparently that's legally binding. I do have a follow-up question, which is at the beginning of this show, Tony Khan is on screen in a neck brace saying, I'm not able to travel to the shows, but I'm producing from home. So why are the Young Bucks booking things? Why is he allowing that? Couldn't he still overrule them? Like as far as when they're booking things for the pay-per-view and making matches for other people that besides themselves. Uh Feels like that's a little underexplained. Unless there's something in the AEW bylaws that only the highest ranking official that is in the physical building gets to book matches. Maybe that's somewhere in the bylaws of the company. Now I don't know. As follow up for that, I didn't think it was like super compelling because they made a big show at the start of they interrupt Tony's little speech from home, and then they do a new, a funny little bit where they do the Dynamite opening, but it's all shots of them and Okada and Jack Perry,
Sure.
which was at least they did NWO Nitro. But then they didn't like really do. They introduced Christian as Swerve's opponent and implied that this was like punishment because Swerve called them names on Collision.
Sure.
They banned Stokely Hathaway from ringside for the main event of Rampage, and then they beat up Kenny Omega. So it's
Yeah.
like they didn't like run roughshod over the whole show. They kind of that's to me, it's like if you're gonna do this thing where the heels have taken over the show and are running roughshod, and anyone that tries to step up to them is getting punished. It can't just be like one segment at the start of the show and one segment at the end of the show, and then the rest of it is just a regular Dynamite. But that's what they did, and and maybe that would be more forgivable if the rest of the stuff on the show was any good. But instead, it was a long Adam Copeland match that was terrible, and just other rank and file. Like you said, they did they did Serena Deeb and Mariah May. That was fine. But it's just like it didn't feel like a new era or like this this new regime that's now in charge of Dynamite that's ruling AEW with this iron fist. Like they're it just felt like a normal show except for the opening bit with the title sequence and the main event angle. So I don't know. It didn't They don't seem like they book any differently than Tony, I guess is what I'm saying, based, within this storyline.
As usual, when there's a heel authority figure or heel owner, there are a lot of logic holes
Yes.
that they don't take the time to address. Like, very rarely do I get the vibe when watching AEW that they are contractually just filling their 3 hours of time. That's what the shows felt like this week to me. They
Fair.
felt there was so much long, boring stuff on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcers about every 90 seconds would remind you that you were in the middle of a 3 hour block. It was just I did not care for anything this week. I didn't care for anything this week. It was probably on my business card.
If I Okay, yeah. If you have positives, or if I have positives, I would say main event beatdown of Kenny was very good.
I
And
Yeah, I thought that was a good angle. Logic
uh
holes aside.
yes. Yeah, in a bubble, it was good as far as if you divorce it from any of the questions that we just raised.
Right.
Uh, and then it does set up theoretically. Okay, Swerve is sort of tangentially against the Bucks. They need other guys, which we kind of talked about last week. Could be the Blackpool Combat Club eventually. Could be, well, obviously FTR will be involved because of course they are.
Right. Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks like it might be some other guys. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a
Well, this is like
FTR
the
and
interim brigade, right? Until
yeah, I don't know. Or it could be you could see FTR and Garcia, and then you get one more in there somehow, and there's your blood and guts.
Mark Briscoe and Eddie Kingston.
Yep, possible. Very possible.
Ideally, it should probably be like more day one AEW people, right? But
Or
they don't protect any of those people. It's like
yeah, I don't.
Like it could be Penta and Phoenix and like Private Party and people like that, but like nobody cares about those people because they lose all the time. Like and or in the case of Private Party, they're pretty much just comedy guys. Like it's like
Yeah, and they're heels too. They're heels again too.
right. So it's like in the case like yeah, like Penn and Phoenix, those guys could be involved. Pac, I guess, if he's available. He disappeared after the pay-per-view and uh he lost due to sadness and disappeared again. So who knows when he's back? Yeah, I guess you could do that, like FTR and then those two or three guys if you wanted to go that route, but I don't know. Or yeah, it could just be any five random baby faces you can find, I guess, in the meantime.
Yep. All right. New Japan has Wrestling Dantaku coming up this weekend. It's it's Moxley defending against Ren Narita. And hang on, that's the one, right? Yeah.
Yes. And the winner faces Shota Umino.
Yeah. So it's a I don't know, it's a weird placeholder show. It's Dolph Ziggler against Hiroshi Tanahashi, a fever dream match if ever there was one. And yeah, that's the key stuff on those 2-night shows that should definitely just be a 1-night show. And yeah, and then New Japan is going to Long Beach next weekend, where you'll get Moxley and Umino for the title, and whatever else. So that's kind of what's going on there. And they'll have Best of the Super Juniors starting up next week. No one can wait. Everyone is just on the edge of their seats. You can feel the electricity building.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like generally speaking, I always get a little giddy for Best of the Super Juniors, but that was also more because it reminds me of my youth. And
sure,
5 years ago when like 5 or 6 of the best wrestlers on earth were in that tournament every year.
Yeah.
As opposed to now where it's some of those guys, but they're much older now, and then a bunch of fellas and Blake Christian.
Blake Christian. I don't know, man.
It really makes you appreciate Ospreay. At least he does for me. Like,
did we talk about this on the air or not?
I don't know. I think we talked about it in DMs. It's like if you want to see a guy who does a lot of the stuff that Will Ospreay does, if you want to see a guy who wrestles the way that people that hate Will Ospreay claim Will Ospreay wrestles,
yes,
watch a Blake Christian match.
Yes, he's the ultimate spot monkey with no psychology guy who athletically can do incredible, amazing things,
and just moves from move to move, like
yes.
Face almost expressionless, like
yes,
offers you nothing but look at this flip I'm doing.
Yes. So if you're into that, that's cool. Also, TNA has pay-per-view on Friday night this week, which goes about as well as most Friday night pay-per-views that go up against the most watched wrestling show in the country, is Friday Night SmackDown. That's probably how well that will go. So that too.
Hey, SmackDown neck and neck with the NFL draft coverage in the 1849 last week. So that was the headline.
There is so there's I know Voices of Wrestling did a thing about there's a WWE PR guy who's apparently very active in getting WWE's message out and leaks the Fast Nationals to certain wrestling influencers on Saturday mornings if it's going well. And look, I'm sure all that's true. I've never been contacted by this guy. Nobody in our website has been contacted by this guy. Maybe they just know that that because the World Wrestling Federation has been trying to put Dave Meltzer out of business for 40 years, that we're a lost cause and they shouldn't bother contacting us.
And I will say, I think people maybe misunderstood the point of that Voices of Wrestling. Like Voices of Wrestling wasn't saying that as like, look at this evil thing WWE is doing.
Right.
He's like, they're really good at this, and they have a lot of depth as far as like story. When they want a story out, they can push it out to like these different levels. Like they have friends at all the major publications if they want something out there, and all the way down to when they want to fight dirty, they know they can, farm it out to the YouTubers and various wrestling websites that will print verbatim what they want printed, basically.
Right.
And his point was more, I forget which Voices of Wrestling guy, it doesn't matter.
No, it
But
doesn't.
was more like, hey,
They're all problematic.
Agreed. This is something WWE is great at, and they are so far ahead of any other wrestling company at like not manipulating and like they're doing something underhanded, but like in just getting their specific branding and messaging on every story that involves them, or every story that they want out there that they think will harm their competition in any way. Like that was kind of his point. I feel like some people took that as like Chris LeGentile is this evil puppet master that controls the wrestling media from afar, and it's more just like, no, I think he was just saying they're really good at this, and this is something that AEW is so far behind on,
right,
that they, even if they start trying to do exactly what WWE is doing, it would take them, if they ever could, it would take them like decades to catch up on the way that WWE is good at leaning on various press sources at different levels.
right. There's no cynical way, or no way to look at that with a cynical eye and not come to the conclusion that, oh, this is evil. However, it's just a corporation being a corporation. You know what I mean?
It's like regular old American evil. It's not specifically evil to the World Wrestling Federation.
Right. It's not like, oh, this guy is a bad person. He's doing his job.
Correct.
Which inherently is bad, but he's doing his job.
Right. That is the job of PR and marketing.
And it's for that reason that like every source last weekend was saying that the WWE Friday Night SmackDown program was neck and neck with the NFL draft on Friday night, even though the NFL draft ran on 3 networks and they just chose one of the networks to actually, it did like triple the viewership, but there you go. All right. Well, sure have talked about a lot of things here tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
Oh no, let's hit the road here.
All right. Till next time, everybody, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
We'll be back soon with more stories from the wrestling life.
Adios.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, here are this week's bonus features.
But anyway, let's talk about the most important thing that happened this week, which is the bees that invaded the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball, the netting behind home plate in the Arizona Diamondbacks stadium. And the bee man who saved the day.
And the beekeeper.
The beekeeper. They're giving him, did you see they're giving him like an event night, and Topps is making a baseball card of him?
I did not see that, no.
I think it's wonderful because you're trying to get as much juice out of this as you can before the news cycle moves on.
Yes.
But the longer people pay attention to this guy, the greater chance of him getting milkshake ducked is.
Yes.
So I would be concerned if I were him.
Sure.
I would have just rode off into the sunset after this past Tuesday evening when I vacuumed up all the bees and threw out the first pitch. But
yeah, I'm not sure what milkshake duck means, but I'll go along with it.
So there's a tweet, I think it's from the Pixelated Boat account.
Yes,
that once very famous to an extent, famous in a niche, vaguely lefty Twitter user context. Which was, everybody loves the milkshake duck, the duck who can't stop drinking milkshakes. 2 hours later, we regret to inform you that the duck is racist.
I see.
So it's just the pattern of something
yes
vaguely wholesome happening that everyone falls in love with on social media, followed by the inevitable reveal that they are in some way a bad person.
Correct. Right. This is many years ago. It would be the Ken Bone effect.
Exactly. Perfect example of a milkshake duck.
Yes. I just from context clues, I was able to determine that that's what you were implying. Like we're one every day that goes by, we're one day closer to finding out that he owned a 1988 Toyota Tercel that had a Confederate flag
Mm-hmm.
bumper sticker on it. I was able to determine that that's what you meant, but thank you for explaining milkshake duck to me.
Appreciate it. I
Yeah.
love trying to explain weird, dumb internet Twitter culture because you can't do it without sounding insane. And
You see, it was the pixelated boat who
right.
said,
Famous Twitter account, pixelated_boat.
"Have you seen the trailer for that Jerry Seinfeld Pop Tarts movie?"
I think it came up as like a YouTube ad for me.
I see. Okay.
And I watched part of Jim Gaffigan's in it, I think.
Yes. Yes.
That's fun. They were touring together this past year, as an aside.
They were.
Which
Yes.
is like I didn't know that Jim had like I know he's like probably the most like brand safe and popular comic in America, but
Yes.
somehow I didn't think he was on the level to tour with Jerry Seinfeld or that Jerry Seinfeld would co-tour with somebody.
Right. Right. Because Seinfeld is like not even really a comedian anymore. Like I know he does stand-up comedy and he's
Mm-hmm.
been a touring comedian pretty much nonstop for 40 years, but yes, to your point, it's like when you think about going to see a stand-up comic at a theater or whatever, Jerry Seinfeld doesn't even play like he plays like the where the symphony orchestra plays in town,
Right.
not comedy clubs, right? Like,
Right, exactly.
yeah, okay, good.
But yes, back to the Pop Tart movie. Uh I I it's a bit, right? Like he's
Right.
doing a bit based on all these movies, like the one where Matt Damon's like, "We got to make a shoe for Michael Jackson, or he'll kill us," or Michael Jordan, or everyone's gonna die. Or the one about BlackBerry, or all those movies that are just like about how a brand made their thing that people know the brand for.
Seems that way. It's like a kind of a yes. Long story short, yes.
Okay.
Uh I'm not sure if it's a direct like commentary on those kinds of movies or if it's just um there's this kernel of truth in that both Kellogg's and Post or whoever
Mm-hmm.
were trying to develop this breakfast pastry at the same time. And it was a race to market first.
I see.
Um, and they've taken and fictionalized a bunch of comedy around that. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'm not sure which.
Okay. That seems more his speed.
That's the only direct comments from anyone in the movie. That's the way I've heard it. Not like, oh, this is a send up of whatever that Nike movie was.
Right.
But,
They're not doing Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
a movie I still haven't seen 20 years later.
A movie that was kind of lampooning the musical biopic of where it's just a collection of scenes where
Correct.
they write one of their famous songs at the end,
Correct.
which was
Yes.
recently resurrected by that Queen movie.
I see. Yes. Yeah, this is not I don't think this is that. Yeah. I think it's just a goofy idea.
A comedic telling of the events.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I may check it out because like that's my wheel.
Sure.
That's my wheelhouse.
There were enough funny people in that trailer that I was like, yeah, okay, this could be something like, and it's it's on Netflix. You don't got to go anywhere,
Right. Let's see here. Who else is in this? Uh Jerry Seinfeld, who is making his directorial debut at the age of
Uh,
70.
That's when you want to get into the game.
Yeah, he wrote the script with Spike Ferriston, who was a former talk show
He had
host,
like a
and
syndicated late night show.
it was a late night show on Fox,
Oh,
but it only aired like on Saturday night or something. It wasn't an actual honest to God late night show. But
mhm.
anyway, he wrote for like one season of NBC, the Letterman on NBC, and then went on to write on Seinfeld in the later seasons. And yeah, so Melissa McCarthy, Jim
Mhm.
Gaffigan, Hugh Grant, Amy Schumer, mm. Mm.
Mm.
Peter Dinklage, Max Greenfield, Christian Slater,
Okay.
Bill Burr, Dan Levy, James Marsden, Jack McBrayer, mm, Mikey Day from SNL. Anyway, John Hamm, John Slattery, who are Don Draper and Roger Sterling from Mad Men. They're
Oh,
both in
okay.
this. Okay, there we go. All right, well, here we go. Anyway, this is, I mean, without question, the bonus features are going to be better than the show this week.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, Hugh Grant plays Tony the Tiger.
Okay, that does sound delightful.
Uh, your thoughts about Jerry marrying a 17-year-old aside.
Yeah, but you can't say anything anymore. He's right. The world is just not ready for the edgy comedy of Gerald Seinfeld, 70-year-old billionaire.
Jerome, but yes.
Sure.
Okay, so did you know that I'm having a very vivid flashback here as I look at Jerry's Wikipedia page?
Hmm.
So after Seinfeld, which ended in 1998,
Hmm.
his next television series was in 2010 and 2011 on NBC called The Marriage Ref.
Okay, that name rings a bell because that's like in the era when Community and 30 Rock would have been airing.
Yes. Um, Jerry was just the producer and the creator, and it was narrated by Marv Albert, naturally, and was hosted by comedian Tom Papa, who refereed a argument between spouses.
I see. It sounds uh riveting.
Yeah, it sounds really, really bad. There's a celebrity panel. Okay. Oh gosh. Jimmy Fallon was it on the celebrity panel in 2010. What do you know about that?
NBC show. A lot of Lorne Michaels plants.
Yeah, looks that way. Madonna was on this show. Martin Short, Sheryl Crow, Gwyneth
Hmm.
Paltrow, Howie Mandel. Oh yeah, this is a big. Anyway, I bring up Tom Papa, who hosted the Marriage Ref, because Seinfeld maybe in this era, this 2010, 2014 era or so, he was touring with Papa, and he kind of became Tom Papa. Tom Papa is kind of like Gaffigan,
Oh,
but a little more silly, a little silly, and a little bit like he might say more one or two more swears than Jim Gaffigan will in his, but largely family friendly comedian Tom Papa.
hmm.
And Seinfeld just totally adopted his persona and his shtick. It was very unsettling.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, we've wasted more than enough time here talking about the Pop Tart movie. Sorry to do this. I have to take a bathroom break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No, there's a terrible moment there. You're like, huh, my stomach's rumbling a little bit. Oh no, this is critical.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay. Well, how do we transition from diarrhea back to the WWE draft?
You know,
One goes well with the other.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
I try to keep on keeping on.